All right, Andy, how you doing?
Doing good. You've got kind of I don't know what the look you're going for. Is this like a Sith Lord type thing, or what are you doing?
I don't know what that is. I'm just
A,
wearing my hood.
a
What's a
Sith?
Sith Lord?
Are you familiar with the Star Wars like at all?
Uh, um, a little bit. I know Luke Skywalker
Okay, yeah.
and R2D2, Yoda.
Okay, well that
Yeah,
the three
as far as
prequels,
my knowledge goes.
the three prequels that came out dealt a lot with the Siths. Like Darth Vader was a Sith, and anyhow, so Revenge of the Sith, no, doesn't ring a bell at all.
Nope,
Okay, well, I feel like we're living through Revenge of the Sith right now. Like Trump, the Sith Lord, is back in office, and this is in the second movie. The bad guys always have to like do good, so that then we have a big heroic third movie. So let's pray to God that there's a big heroic third movie coming because we're in the second movie right now, and it's not going well. Um, Real
not
quick,
looking.
before I have stuff prepared for tonight, but I right before I called you, I was taking a last minute little potty break. And I had seen earlier today that RFK Jr. is hiring, and I couldn't figure out who it was, but he's hiring a YouTube doctor to handle his. We talked a couple weeks ago about how he was gonna basically have a study done to see if vaccines do cause autism, even though every study, and even I saw people were asking Elon's Grok AI or whatever it is about
Yeah.
vaccine efficiency in studies, and even Grok, which Elon runs, says that these vaccines have been tested, and there's no link between vaccines and autism. I'm not a doctor; I'm just going off what the AI tells me. But
There's been a lot of studies, right?
apparently, there's been a bunch, according to doctors and AI, but those could very well be lying to me. And maybe RFK is the only person telling me the truth. I don't know. But RFK hired a YouTube doctor that's going to be like in charge of these studies. And this is a YouTube doctor who already very much believes that vaccines cause autism. So
Oh,
we've got that going for us. And apparently, because of that, that just happened last day or two, the FDA's top vaccine official has resigned tonight. Dr. Peter Marks wrote in his resignation letter to about HHS Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. This is a quote. It has become clear that truth and transparency are not desired by the secretary, but rather he wishes to subservient confirmation of his misinformation and lies. I
holy
stumbled
shit.
I stumbled through that, but that was the top vaccine guy. So he's gone, he resigned, and that was what he said on the way out the door. And now we have a YouTube doctor that's going to do the study that's going to determine whether we keep vaccines or not. So
Oh,
things are going fantastic. Anyhow, yeah.
oh
If
my
it was,
gosh.
I really, the one good thing is I was like, you know what? Like maybe they really will get some good doctors to do some good big tests on these vaccines, and then kind of we'll put it all to bed once and for all. Are they safe or they're not? But I told you a couple weeks ago, whenever they're going to commission a study in the Trump presidency, like they're going to make sure it comes out the way they want it to come out. And we know
That's
how.
so ridiculous. So
I'm just saying,
ridiculous.
JFK wouldn't have ordered this study if it wasn't already kind of baked in as to how this is going to come out. So I can already tell you how this is going to come out. They're going to claim all kinds of links, and then every other doctor in the world is going to say, no, 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 this is wrong. Not going to matter. That's where we're at. So anyhow, that was my little lead story. So they're calling it Signal Gate. We talked last time. Last time we talked the
Oh,
whole Signal conspiracy or not conspiracy, whatever it is, the Signal scandal had just popped. So
okay.
where we left off last time, I can't remember exactly, but basically we were to catch anybody up who didn't see last time. I think it was Mike Waltz, the national security guy. He put together a Signal thread. Signal is a messaging app that's supposed to be encrypted end to end, a lot safer than normal text. And he had Tulsi, Ratcliffe, Hegseth, like all the major players, and they were
Yeah.
discussing bombing plans. At the time, the guy from the Atlantic said, "Hey, there's a lot of classified stuff in here that I didn't put in because I know better, but there's a lot in here." And they were basically calling him a liar. They were like, "Nothing is classified." The next day, we talked about it the day it broke, and then the very next morning there was a hearing for the Senate Intelligence Committee, and they kind of were
Is that
going
where
to.
Tulsi was involved with that?
Yes, it was Tulsi, Ratcliffe, Waltz, Cash Patel.
Okay.
I'm probably missing somebody. Anyhow, it was a lot of people that were in that, the major heads that were in that group chat. And it's funny because when they were in there for their confirmation hearing, the only other time we've seen them in front of the Senate, they were all pretty cocky. Like they were fighting back and like they had a lot to say. And they came in and they were doing a whole bunch of, I don't recall, which their lawyers coached him to just if you're not 100% sure that you know, then say you don't recall. So it was a lot of I don't recalls, but they did get him to go on record several times saying that there was nothing classified in there. And then towards the end of the hearing, they kind of cornered Ratcliffe, and Radcliffe was like, "Well, there was some stuff that may be classified." And like once he said that, then they all started trying to backtrack and cover their rear, and they were like, "Well, I'm not exactly sure if there was anything classified." So that hearing
Mm.
ended that way, where suddenly they left the door open that maybe there was classified stuff there. And then an hour or two later, Trump has Mike Waltz, the guy who started the chain and invited the journalist into the chain. He has him in the Oval Office in front of the cameras.
Well, hold on. I just saw
Okay.
him on an interview, and he's basically blaming the reporter for like sneaking in now.
He
That's basically his move.
We'll get to him in a second because he's got a lot of excuses. But he had Waltz in there, and he's like, "Well, actually, I think Mike has something to say about this." And they turn to Mike Waltz, and he just starts to attack the reporter. He's a sleazebag. He's a liar, and that was kind of their play. It was just like this reporter's awful, and it's like, well, what you're saying about him might be true, but that doesn't stop the fact that apparently you invited him into this chat. So anyhow, they spend the whole rest of the afternoon basically saying he's a liar and there is nothing confidential in there, nothing classified. Hegseth was on like a plane, like a jetway in Hawaii, I believe, and was just going off about this stupid, no good reporter, blah blah blah. So they were basically daring, in my opinion, they were daring him to release the text. Like I think
Yeah.
they thought he wouldn't. So they went in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee on Tuesday morning, and then on Wednesday morning, they had to go in front of the House Intelligence Committee. So Tuesday afternoon, they're blasting this reporter. Wednesday, an hour before they're supposed to go in front of the House, he releases the full text. So, okay, let's see. What do we have here? And oh my gosh, like yeah, there was the part that jumped out at me as being the part that clearly shouldn't have been in there was Hegseth, and he was flat out. He was like, "All right, at 12:15, the F-18s are going to take off. At exactly 1:43, the bombs are going to drop. Just after that, MQ-9 Reaper drones are going to launch at this time. They'll drop bombs at this time, and then the second wave of F-18s launch at 2:15, and they arrive over the target like very precisely." So when I saw that, that was all I needed to see. I was like, oh wow, like we're given actual times. And one of the things they'd asked them on Tuesday was there any specific weapon systems that were mentioned, targets or
Mm.
weapon systems, and they all kept saying no, not that I recall. Dude, every weapon system we used, and even like the last one was like tomahawks. The tomahawks get fired at 3 o'clock or whatever it is.
Oh
So
God.
so they're all clearly lying. But what do you expect? I mean, they're in front of Congress. Yeah, I don't recall. We'll keep you out of jail. It makes you look stupid. By the way, this whole conversation, like this all happened like a week and a half ago. So like if this had happened 6 months ago and they were giving us the I don't recall, I could kind of see that. Anyhow, that hearing was not did not go well, and they did a whole bunch more I don't recalls. They basically were just trying to not get in trouble, trying to not perjure themselves and not piss Trump off. Um, Hegseth, oh, you're freezing on me a little bit
Yeah.
there. Okay,
What?
I got you back. Um,
Okay.
so Waltz went on Laura Ingram's show that night, and he was throwing everything he could against the wall to see what would stick. Like at one point, he said that the reporter's number must have got sucked into his phone somehow. Like that happens all the time, right? You walk by someone and their contact info just gets sucked into your phone. Have you ever heard of this
Yeah.
happening? He said
No.
that. I can't. I honestly can't remember. He said maybe he snuck in, maybe he intentionally snuck in. Which right
Right.
there, that's espionage. Like if you're saying he did that, you should be following through with charges because he snuck into a
Mm-hmm.
classified meeting. But anyhow, and then Hegseth, his whole thing was like, as soon as the text came out, he was like, "See, I told you." No, he basically he said because there wasn't exact targets and exact flight paths of the F-18s, they're like, "See, I was totally right. There was nothing in here that was bad," and that's laughable to me. And then right after that, Ryan Grimm with Breaking Points. That I brought him up every show for the last 3 or 4 shows, but he's
Yeah.
killing it right
He-
now.
He's
He
gonna be
was the
boyfriend,
first to
huh?
point out that one of the texts was like, "Hey, we just got confirmation that the subject that we're watching is inside the building. This is a go." And he was the first to bring up, and he was like, "Hey, you don't get confirmation that he just walked into a building with overhead spy drones. Like that's a confidential human source on the ground, someone who's staking out that building and just saw him walk in and relayed a message
Well,
somehow.
apparently, yeah, it was a building, and it was like
An
his
apartment building.
girlfriend's building.
It was his
His
girlfriend's apartment. There were a lot of other people that lived in there.
a lot, yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. Um, But right there, he was the first to point out and said, "Hey, there's probably a confidential human source on the ground, and now the Houthis and the Iranians are going to be looking for that. They're going to be torturing people trying to get somebody to give up a name of who was it on the ground that's basically a spy." Anyhow, they
Yeah.
did flatten the building, and one of the texts was like the building is completely demolished, and like everybody celebrated, and like the bicep emoji and prayer hands, and it's like how many people were in that build like. We've talked
Yeah.
about it before, but they have a calculation where like, okay, to get this one high value target, we're willing to kill four civilians to get him. Like they kind of, I'm not saying it's four, but they have like a calculation how valuable the target is. That's that many more civilians they're willing to take. This guy, there's no number for sure yet. I saw like 40 something, but then everybody's saying, oh, well, that's the Houthis saying that number, so you can't trust that. And it's like, well, like,
Okay.
what are we going to trust here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Israel, it turns out that there's reporting, and none of this is confirmed, but Israel's really pissed at us right now because apparently it was an
Oh yeah.
Israeli spy that was on the ground, and now he is either in fear for his life or whatever. So they basically turned back to America and said, "Dude, what that? Like, that's our spy, our information we gave you, and now he's in danger because of." So that
Oh.
I don't know that's true. I've read that in several places, but I don't think we'll ever find out if that's for real or not. That's just what's being said. Nobody in the White House or Trump has denied that. And that's been out all day, and nobody said anything about it. So,
Hmm.
anyhow, um,
And
yeah, our Attorney General, everybody said the thing, Pam Bondi, everybody said she's qualified to do the job. The matter is, will she really be independent? So, this is the first real test of is she going to be independent? And they asked her on camera yesterday if there was an investigation going on or if there was going to be, and if not, like, why not? And she did basically like a campaign little stop for Trump. She was like, the question we should be asking is like, how awesome was this great military operation we had? And if you want to talk about classified information, let's talk about Hillary Clinton's server and blah blah. And like, and I was like, oh wow, like she's not like in any in a normal administration, either the what do they call it? The Inspector General for whatever for the Department of Defense or whoever it might be, intelligence would be at least the Inspector General would be opening up an investigation. And I'll bet in a lot of administrations there'd be a special counsel right now, like looking into this just to show that the White House has no control. This is an independent person that's going to research this. Nothing. We are not getting
yeah.
anything. The one thing we have going for us is it appears that the Senate, not so much the House, but the Senate Intelligence Committee isn't going to let this just slide. Like they want more answers. They want to bring back people for hearings. Even the Republicans on the committee are not a big fan of this. So I think here's the funny part. Everybody's kind of going after Hegseth on this and not Mike Waltz. Everybody in the Senate, okay? The Senate
Okay.
likes Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz is what they call a neocon, and I don't even want to act like I know exactly what that is, but he likes war.
Warmonger.
He's
Yeah.
all for war in the Middle East. Like, let's bomb the Muslims. He's all about that. And they like that. Like, they know what they have in him, and he agrees with them. So they like Mike Waltz. What they don't like is Hegseth, because he's a wild card. Like, they don't know if
Yeah.
he shares their views. So it appears the Senate is more going after Hegseth than they are Waltz. And Hegseth he's the one that put in the most classified stuff into the chat. But also, Walt started the chat and invited the journalists. So it's like if somebody should go down to they should both get in some kind of trouble. I don't even know that they should lose their job, but like there should be an apology at the very least, like something.
Now, from what I understand, like this is so like this is like a huge no-no, and like somebody's head has to roll on this.
You would think so. The big thing that they're saying right now is, oh, he said it was war plans, and now he's changing it to attack plans. And from every source they've talked to that's been former military or in the military now, they said attack plans are way more sensitive than war plans. War plans are kind of a general plan, whereas attack plans are exact
Mm.
times that the aircraft are going to launch and this and that. So, like, if anything, attack plan is worse than war plan. But that's the game they're trying to play right now. Is
Could
oh
you
look,
imagine if this happened under Biden? What they would do?
especially the fact that this whole conversation went on without Trump really being involved, from what we can tell. And the one time that JD Vance said, like, "Hey, this doesn't really line up with Trump's overall message about Europe," and they all just kind of poo pooed it. They're like, "No, no, no, we're doing this. Like, we got the green light. We're going." So,
Uh,
and then also Trump keeps playing dumb with everything. I don't know anything about
Everything.
that. He,
Yeah.
I think he does. He's keeping himself clean as much as he can right now. So,
Yeah.
I will say this. Democrats have been not fighting on all these little side issues. And the Democratic voters have been pissed about that. Like, just fight, just do something. And I've told you before, it's like they're kind of waiting on the right battle because, like, if they get mad about the deportation flights, that could be a losing battle for them. Even though me and you would both agree what's going on with the deportations is not correct,
Yeah.
the Republicans can control the messaging there and be like, "Oh, Democrats have a problem with us kicking gang members out of the country or whatever it is." Like, they kind of have a good attack line.
They kind of have that on, yeah, have it on that
They
one.
People have said that the smart Dems are sitting back and waiting on the right thing to happen where they have the advantage in the messaging on the battle. This appears to be it. They're actually kind of fighting on it. And even like Dave Portnoy, I saw, which, what does he have to do with politics? I don't know, but he endorsed Trump, and he did a Twitter video where he was like, somebody's head needs to roll. Like, this is Bush League, blah blah blah. And then during the White House press briefing the next day, a reporter asked Caroline Levitt, the press secretary, "Hey, Dave Portnoy said yesterday, blah 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 blah. What do you have to say about that?" And it was just like, she's getting questions about what Dave Portnoy said. Okay,
Yeah,
that's where we're at
good.
right
That's
now.
what,
Cool.
yeah, that's where we're
Um,
at. Good.
but Piers
That's what they
Morgan,
brought. That's what they wanted, right?
yep. Piers Morgan actually also was kind of going off about it. He very much thinks this was a fuck up and somebody needs to get fired. The only reason that matters, Piers Morgan tries to play himself off as a independent, which he can kind of lean a little bit each way, but he's a big Trump fan. Him and Trump are friends. He always supports Trump, and he is saying, "Hey, somebody needs to get fired over this." So
You can't be an independent centrist and a Trump fan.
and that's why, but everything
I'm
else,
just saying.
if you just hear his views on everything not regarding Trump, he does come across as a pretty in the middle guy. But then it's like, oh, he's 100% on Trump's side. Like, I don't get how you can do that and be in the middle, but
Yeah, but he's on Trump's side even when it's not. He's on the Republican side, basically.
yeah, and he's more on the Trump side.
He, he sides with the Republicans like 90% of the time.
I would disagree. I would say on his show, he can kind of 50-50 it on a lot of things unless it's directly about Trump. And that's where he suddenly like, if Trump did it, it's fine. Like, that's where he goes on that. So
Hmm.
and that's the problem for them is, oh God, I think it was somebody on the Bulwark or it might have been on Breaking Points was saying like this has kind of entered the lexicon, like it's mainstream. Like, people are talking about Signalgate. Like, it's caught on with America. Like, you could make a little crack. Like, tomorrow at my kid's soccer game, I could be like, "Hey, you guys want to switch to Signal?" And like 9 out of 10 people will know exactly what I'm talking about without me having to explain it at all.
Good,
So it's
good.
kind of mainstream. So this is the right one for Democrats to jump on. I don't think nothing's going to happen out of it because Pam Bondi would have to do something, investigate it, and she's not gonna. So,
Yeah. Hmm.
but at
Well,
least,
I mean, I feel like they're gonna keep fucking up, and there's gonna keep being so and so gate. There's
yeah,
gonna be gates after gates after gates.
this is the first gate, and the way I'm looking at it,
Besides
if
Matt Gates.
Matt Gates and Signal Gate, I like it. If Democrats take the House in 2 years, this will be the first major like investigation. They because they'll get control of all the committees, and in my mind right now, this is the first one they go after. It's the most solid ground they have as far as messaging to the public. So that's where we're at. They'll probably
Well, I've
more
been out
things.
of town for like the last 3 days, and I jumped on and I just saw the headline, but like Kyle Klinsky has like three different headlines, just I think just today, maybe today and yesterday, about like Trump he's fixing the next elections. Like,
So
and I didn't watch any of it. I don't know what it is. Can you fill me in?
I wanted to get into that tonight, but I want to do a lot more reading on that before we talk about it. The key thing is he signed an executive order that basically is nothing more than a paperweight. Like, it's not going to carry any weight. It's going to get shot down, and that's why I haven't spent a lot of time on this because our Constitution is extremely clear. We have decentralized elections, and the reason we have that is so that nobody can rig a national election. Like, every state controls their own election, and then within every state, every county controls how they do things. So the counties all basically hold their own elections and then tally those votes up and pass those numbers on to the state. So like that, it's done that way for a reason. It's to prevent anybody from being able to come in and just rig it at the top of the chain. Um,
Okay.
so he has no power to do. And really, even this has been debated, but like even if Congress got together and passed some national voting stuff, like it
Hmm.
could get shot down in court just because the way the Constitution spells it out, it's left up to the states, not the national government or the federal government. So
Hmm.
I do want to look into it more, and we'll totally talk about it. But and one of those. Here's one of the things where there's certain things that I'm kind of like I still kind of have the Republican point of view on this. Like my example here, voter ID. Like you have to have a picture ID to vote. That seems common sense to me. Like I've heard all what that does is it disenfranchises poor people, most often minorities, black people, Mexicans that don't have a picture ID. I get it, but also it's like I have a hard time arguing that like, dude, they're trying to make everybody that votes shows their ID to vote. That's bull. I can't really get down with that.
Well, hold on. But so if you don't have an ID,
You have
you
to
can't just go
like
vote.
in
You
certain
can't just go
states.
vote.
So here it is. To get your voter registration, if you don't have a picture ID, you have to bring in a couple different things. One of the things is like a utility bill showing that you live in the district you claim to live in. But you can like have like a birth certificate, a utility bill, and something else, and like none of them have a picture on it. But that's to get to register to vote. Okay. Once
You
you
have to
have
have
your
three items
I,
that
I
prove that
I don't know.
you're.
Every state's different. I don't know for sure, but like that's kind of the general. It's got to be one of these, one of these, one of these. Like that's kind of how it goes. But that's to
Okay.
get your voter registration. Every state's different. But in some states, if you have your voter registration, you can show up with that, and I think very little else because you technically already have your voter registration, so they've already checked you. So you just walk in and go, "Here's my voter registration card. I'm gonna go vote," and you don't have
The
to show
voter's
anything else.
registration card doesn't have a picture.
No, it's a piece of paper. So.
Oh, okay. I'm fine
And
with that.
here's the thing: if they fixed it to where at every state, when you register to vote, you get it's like kind of like going to the DMV, you get your picture taken, and now you have your voter card with an ID on it, and that's free to get. If every
Yeah.
state would do that, then cool, that fixes the problem. But anyhow, but like I said, if I don't know what else he's trying to do, but if it's just like he's trying to make national voter ID, like I have a hard time getting upset about that. That to me, that does seem like we should find a way to make sure that everybody who's voting is supposed to be voting. Like I have no problem with that
I
whatsoever.
mean, voter registration, it seems like that's more difficult to forge than just bringing in a fake ID.
Well, but the theory on that is like, say that your grandpa is registered to vote, but he's 90 years old and he's not going to go vote.
Hmm.
You could go vote for yourself, and then you could come back home and go to a different polling spot with your grandpa's card and be like, "Yep, I'm here to vote. I'm here to vote," and vote as your grandfather because there's no ID to make sure that you are whoever your grandfather's name is. Like
Okay.
that's what people claim happens.
I mean,
So.
how much actual fraud is going on in our elections?
Oh, I think it's like well less than 1%, like 0.00 something percent. There's definitely fraud. Even
Yeah.
in the
It's
2020
mostly
election,
Republicans, right?
I was going to say in the 2016 and 2020 election, like the cases of fraud they did find were like 75% Republicans doing it.
Yeah.
So, and every one of them said, well, I've seen interviews with these people. I said, well, I know the Dems are cheating, so we have to cheat too. And it's like, well, they're not catching. If the Dems are cheating, they're not catching them as much. So,
That's bad.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyhow, but so to how Trump is always like the master showman, like, oh, there's trouble over here, so let me do something over here to get their
Uh,
attention. The next round of tariffs was supposed to be April 2nd, and Trump like Wednesday morning, Goldberg released the text, and then those 4 or 5 intel chiefs have to go in front of the House. It doesn't go well. This is starting to snowball. Like Signalgate's about to be an issue, and then Trump realizes that, and at like noon he announces, "Hey, at 4 o'clock, I've got a big thing happening today in front of cameras. Like it's going to be great." And then it starts to leak out that he's announcing auto tariffs. He's moved that up a week early.
oh.
Why? Why might he have done that? Because
Oh.
the news is going all over Signalgate and he needs to change the story. So he announced 25% tariffs on every foreign car or foreign car part that comes into America. Stock market's been tanking ever since.
Oh yeah.
I had a lot of fun watching Fox News tonight. Larry Kudlow, he was in the Trump administration in 2016. He has a show on Fox Business, and he was pissed today. He pissed on a couple different fronts. The stock market tanking, the inflation numbers ticked up a bit more. Unemployment looks like it's about to make a massive spike. And then today a story broke that I don't believe, but I'm gonna not say anything negative and wait to see what comes out. But supposedly Trump is considering, this is what the story is. Trump is considering raising taxes on the upper class in order to pay for the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. There was like 3 things: no tax on tips, overtime. Now,
Yeah.
I don't think that there's no chance that he ends up raising taxes on the rich. If
No.
that goes against everything he has said in front of the mics, in front of reporters on podcasts, like he plans on giving the upper class and corporations a tax cut. And then suddenly today a story comes out that, hey, he might actually raise the taxes in order to help the middle class. Now, that would be the smartest thing he could do for his legacy because
Yeah.
90% of the country would love him for that. But
Yeah.
all his billionaire donors and billionaire buddies would be pissed at him like forever for that. So
I mean,
I'm trying not
I,
to like comment one way or another. I wish it would happen. I don't think there's any way it happens.
here's the thing is he just doesn't know what he's doing. This
He's
is
not.
the what?
Sorry, I was gonna say he's back and forth on everything, and we talked about this 2 or 3 shows ago. But he loves to send out trial balloons. Like, hey, I'm just gonna say this once and see what the general reaction would be to it. And if it's a bad
Yeah.
reaction, never mind, I didn't mean that. And if it's a
Yeah.
good reaction, well, then I might explore that. Like, he is a true populist. Like, let me just
No,
throw
no,
some out there.
he's not a populist at all. If
He
he was
is
a
in that.
populist, yeah, he's
Okay,
anti-populist, really.
in certain ways, like if he's like, oh, all the people want this, I'll do that, fine. And it could be like terrible for America long term, but he's like, no, this will make me popular right now if I do this, so I'm going to do it. Like that's the way
With
he
his
looks at
base,
it.
maybe. Or with the
The,
people with their who are in earshot of him.
so that would be the smoothest move he could ever make. Let's say that the tax bill comes out in August and it turns out he's raising taxes on the rich. The left wouldn't know what to do with themselves because you can't
No,
get mad about that. Like they would
nope.
probably forgive a lot of other shit he's done if he were to do that. Again, I don't,
Who cares about Medicaid?
dude.
Tax.
Call me skeptical. I think that I don't know who wrote that story. Maybe he put that story out there to help distract from Signalgate. I don't know. But I read that today and I chuckled to myself and I was like I don't even half believe this, but if he did it, I would give him ultimate praise. Like that's what needs. If he all of a sudden takes a left turn into Bernie Lane and he's like, the rich aren't paying enough. Like,
Yeah.
wow, what a turn that would be. No,
Well,
no way
here's
that's
the
gonna happen.
thing: is like you could raise the taxes on the rich, but then give them more loopholes so they still don't have to pay.
The thing is, you don't even have to raise the taxes on them. Just close the loopholes and make them pay what tax code says they should be paying, and that
Yeah.
would fix a lot of problems right there. Because we tax the rich at 47%, I think is like the highest. But it's like, oh, if you look, like no billionaire is paying 47%. They're really paying less than we are percentage wise. They're paying
Zero.
like
Yeah.
anywhere from 0 to 12% is kind of the time they're in. But it's like I'm not gonna fall for that shit. That's all I can say about that. I lost my notes there. Anyhow, Greenland. You got a second to talk about the joy of Greenland?
Oh, yeah. I
What?
didn't
What?
know. I didn't know JD was actually going to go. I thought just his wife was going.
So while you were gone, a lot happened. Okay.
Okay.
So Usha, I think it's her name, Usha Vance announced she was going to go, and then did you see the video? I might splice it in right here. She released a video that seemed like a hostage video, where she was like reading off a teleprompter and like uncomfortably in front of the camera, and like
Huh.
there were gaps in between words where it wasn't a smooth flow of her talking. Like she was clearly reading, but she was like,
Uh,
"I am very proud to go represent America in Greenland to watch this historic annual dog sled race." Like it was very odd.
I'm so excited to share that I'll be visiting Kalaalleq, Greenland, next weekend. I'm particularly thrilled to visit during our National Dog Sled Race, which our country is proud to support as a sponsor. I've been reading all about it with my children, and I'm amazed by the incredible skill and teamwork that it takes to participate in this race. I'm also coming to celebrate the long history of mutual respect and cooperation between our nations, and to express hope that our relationship will only grow stronger in the coming years. I look forward to meeting many of you soon and to learning from you about your beautiful land, culture, and traditions. See you soon.
Anyhow, she announced she's going. All the government leaders in Greenland immediately come out very loudly and they're like, she's not invited. Like, we don't want her here. And like, it's interesting. They picked her because she is like she's the most palatable person out of Trump, Melania, JD, and then Usha seems kind of sweet. She hasn't been a troll. She hasn't intentionally been a dick to anybody. So I think
yeah.
they were like, hey, this is our new soft power. We got rid of USAID. Let's send Usha Vance over there and see if maybe she can get
But
along with people.
it didn't. Does she even want to be a part of the administration? She doesn't really seem.
No
Most
clue.
vice presidents' wives aren't a part of the administration.
So there's no clue. And like, all I have to look back on is like Karen. I think her name was Karen Pence. I don't know if it was Karen or not. Anyhow, Mike Pence's wife. Like apparently she was disgusted by Trump from the get go, and like didn't even like to be near him. So she just held her tongue and kind of didn't do a whole lot. The guy that was Kamala's wife, I can't remember his or Kamala's husband. I can't remember his name, but he seemed to kind of
Doug.
like, yeah,
Doug.
Doug Emhoff or something like that.
Okay.
He seemed like he wanted more spotlight than they were giving him. Like if he had the chance, he would pop out and be like, "Hey, I'm Doug." Like he was all about it. That's all kind of Michelle Obama had a prominent role. Um,
Yeah, but she wasn't traveling to other countries being a.
no, but I mean Laura Bush had the whole like raising the literacy rate. I think was her big thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
with that Laura Bush was the first lady. I'm thinking who was the second lady under? I have no clue who Dick Cheney's wife is. Anyhow, she was Amy Adams in the movie. That's all I know. Um, anyhow, so Usha says she's going. She releases a video. Denmark says we don't want her here, and then apparently we have a U.S. delegation that's already on the ground in Greenland, and the village this is happening is Nuuk, 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 Greenland, and
Okay.
we send this delegation door to door because they're trying to set up photo ops. They want Usha to go into people's living rooms and sit down and talk to them about how great America is, that kind of stuff. And every house they went to said, "Nope, we don't want her here." So she starts to feel, "Oh, I don't know if I should go there. They clearly don't want me." And JD says, "No, no, no. Like I'm going to go with you now. So I'm going. It'll be fine." And then they keep knocking on every door in this village and they say, "Hey, would you like to have the vice president of the United States and his wife?" They think that adding JD will get people to start to say yes. And instead, it's an even bigger no. It's a fuck no. Like we don't want him here. Um, so it turns out there would have been no photo ops and there would have been huge protests about him being there. Like it wasn't going to be a good deal. So they announced at one point that they were just canceling the trip. The trip was not happening anymore. And then everybody online started basically laughing at the Trump administration and JD for canceling the trip. From the reports, Trump got pissed about that and said, "Oh no, you are going. Like I'm not gonna take shit over this." So they ended up sending JD, Usha, and Mike Waltz to we have a Space Force base, U.S. base Pituffik or something like that, is all the way up in the northwest side of Greenland, like in the Arctic
Okay. Yeah.
Circle. So we sent them there. So they landed, and a base is technically U.S. soil. So they landed on U.S. soil, and they were on U.S. soil the whole time. They talked to the soldiers, and then they flew back. It was a day trip to Greenland. So no photo ops. In that,
But they made a speech. They made
he
a
did
speech.
he made a speech to the troops and mainly to the press, and he said that what he sees happening is Greenland gets to vote here soon on if they want to be independent from Denmark or not, and they should get to do that. And then if they do choose to be independent, like we should start having conversations with them right away about them being part of America. And he said that he does not foresee that the military will have to get involved here. Like this won't come to us invading. Like he thinks we can just talk them
Why
into it.
would he even bring that up? That is
Well,
ridiculous.
that's compared. So like an hour later, Trump's talking on camera, and he's like, "Oh, it'd be great if they would willingly come along, but one way or another, we're gonna get that country." And it's like, like that's okay. Like we're now the country that does foreign conquest, so whatever. Which
Uh,
he did have a talk. I'm going to sidetrack here, but he had a talk with the new Canadian Prime Minister this morning, and then afterward he came out and was like, Trump was very glowy about it. He was like, it was a real good call, and he kept referring to the guy by his proper title, like, "Oh yeah, the Prime Minister, blah blah blah." I don't know his name. Never once called him
oh,
governor. Never said anything about them being the 51st state. So maybe that's toning down. Maybe he's just putting all his effort into Greenland now. I don't really know, but he seems like there's going to be a better relationship with this guy than Trudeau. So I don't know what that means for anything really, but
poor Canada and
yeah,
Greenland.
Canada, I was trying to think about this earlier. Canada, Greenland, Panama, Gaza. Where else was he trying to take over? I can't remember.
Parts of Mexico.
Oh yeah, Northern Mexico. They don't even use Northern Mexico. That should be ours. Yeah. So anyhow, the other fun news for today. You know who Elise Stefanik is?
Um, I hear that name, but I don't know exactly who she is.
She's a lady that's a congresswoman from I think like a really red part of New York, and she was actually a anti-Trump Republican like the first term for like the first half a year that Trump was in office, and then slowly realized that if she kissed his ass, she could move up. She was going to be his U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, which is a pretty
Okay.
prestigious role. So he named her for that. She was actually breezing through confirmation. She was going to get confirmed later this week by the Senate to officially take the role. And then the shit started to hit the fan for Trump in the House. Have you heard about any of these races that are going on right now, like special elections?
No. Oh, well, there's one going on. Isn't the one, are you talking about like the ones where Elon's like paying people to vote in a certain way?
We'll get to that one at the end here. But so earlier this week, I believe it was on Tuesday, there was a special election in Pennsylvania in a district that Trump won by 16 points. Okay, so it's a Trump plus 16 district. Republicans didn't really put a lot of effort into this. They just thought they were going to cruise right to victory, being that Trump had carried this district by so much, and the Democrat won. So that's at least a 17-point swing. I can't remember exactly what it was, but Democrat
Big.
won, and that started setting off little alarm bells for Republicans. Like, oh shit, hold on, they flipped that seat like that. They shouldn't have flipped that seat. Coming, and then the next day, polling came out. Mike Waltz, who's the guy who set up the Signal chat. He used to be a congressman. He got named to be part of the cabinet, so they're doing an election to fill his seat, and he won that by 30 points. Him and Trump both won his seat by 30 points. It's in Florida. And the polling just came out for that special election, and the Democrats are up 44 to 41. Okay. Now,
Huh.
I think the Republicans are still going to win that one. I think they're going to win, but it's like Waltz and Trump won it by 30, and I think they're only going to win it by like 5 or so. And I'm like, that's scary
Okay.
right there. Like that even if they win it, but they don't win it by a lot, that's going to be scary. Um,
Big jump.
and then the Wisconsin Supreme Court seat, Trump won Wisconsin barely, but he won it. And Polly Market right now has a like 87% chance the Democrat's going to win that seat. So, what do you do if you're the Republicans and there's a big race that you need to make sure you win? Who do you send in?
Elon Musk.
Elon's replaying his Pennsylvania playbook. He's offering to give away money. He did a tweet today that as soon as he put it out, several people online were like, "Hey, like Wisconsin has different election laws than Pennsylvania does," and what he just said is 100% against the law in Wisconsin. Like he can't do that.
Oh,
And then he ended up deleting that tweet like an hour later, and then put a new tweet out and said like to clarify, and then changed the wording in his tweet.
okay.
Just the fact that he's doing what he's doing, like it'll probably go to court. I don't know if he'll win or lose, but Wisconsin ain't Pennsylvania, and somebody should have notified him that there's different election laws in every state because yeah, he's going to give away $2 million, a million to two different people. And it's one of those where to get into his speech, you have to sign his petition and vote, register to vote, or whatever it is. But he's trying the same play that he did in Pennsylvania. Some people were pointing out he put all kinds of money and energy into Pennsylvania, and Trump ended up carrying Pennsylvania by about the same margin he carried Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, like all the other swing states. So like, it's not really clear that Elon had a real effect in Pennsylvania or not. Like if Elon hadn't put any money into that, would Trump have still won by the same margin he did in the other states? So they're
Probably.
saying this is a real good litmus test here. Like this liberals favored a whole lot. Elon comes in at the last minute. Like, can he really move the needle? Did he really move the needle the first time in Pennsylvania? We don't know. This is going to show it. Um, and it's a Supreme Court seat. It's not to my in my mind like this isn't anything worth pumping millions and millions of dollars into. But apparently both sides are pumping a crap load of money into this. So that's where we're
Hmm.
at there.
Interesting.
But it's kind of we're gonna have a couple more house races. Oh, and to go back, Stefanik, had she got nominated for the UN, which was going to happen this week, her seat would have suddenly become available. And Republicans only have like a 3 vote margin in the House right now. So if they lose this one in Florida, which, like I said, I don't think they're gonna, but it's just scary that the Democrats up right now if you're a Republican. But if they lose
Yeah.
that, it goes down to a 2 seat majority. And then if Stefanik gives up her seat to go to the UN and somehow the Democrats flip that, now you have a 1 seat majority. There is a congressman from, I think it was from California, that was a Republican that just died. So that's going to be a special election in like 4 or 5 months. So before
Hmm.
the midterms, there's a chance, a very small chance that Democrats could like flip the House just during this session. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to cut the margin down to like 2 votes. But it's it's real enough that Trump had to go to Stefanik and say, "Hey, I know you were really looking forward to this, but I need to pull your nomination. You need to go back to the House. And on top of that, she normally would have had like leadership roles. She would have been in like the head of certain committees, and she's not on any committees because they knew she was going to go to the UN. So now she's coming
Mm,
back just to be a random old House member that has no authority, no head of committee, no nothing like that. So
okay.
yeah. So anyhow, so it's a good sign if you don't want Trump to be able to just do whatever he wants for the next 4 years. But Democrats still have to not screw it up. I think the Democrats are totally capable of screwing up the midterms. So
Totally. Totally.
I'm not taking anything for granted on that.
I mean, yeah. That was my biggest fear. It's like, okay, I mean, if Trump keeps screwing up for 2 years, then we have the midterms like
Yeah.
in the bag almost, right? But if we take the House and then we start blocking all this stuff that they want to do, then nobody's really paying attention. Then it's a tighter race.
When if the Democrats take the House for 2 years, they're just going to do investigation after investigation. There's
Yeah,
going to be hearings, and it's going to just
exactly.
and they're going to be targeting not just Trump because, like I said, they don't really want to get Trump impeached at this point. Like they want to hurt the Republicans going into 2028 because that's the same playbook that the Democrats did, or sorry, the Republicans did right before this last election. Like they were going after Biden as hard as they could until Biden stepped aside and Harris was the nominee, and then they immediately stopped all of their House investigations on Biden and started trying to open investigations into Kamala Harris. So it's just a matter of trying to hurt whoever you think the nominee is going to be. So if it looks like it's going to be JD, that's where they're going to focus on Signalgate and the fact that he was in this group chat and the fact that there was classified stuff said that he never spoke up and said, hey, we shouldn't be doing this here. Anyhow,
Hmm.
um, in other news, Trump had a big Trump had a big like ceremony the other night where he officially unsealed all of the RussiaGate documents from the FBI. So the investigation into him in Russia, he continuously said all of it. I want them all declassified. I want the people to be able to see what's in there and maybe what's not in there, is what he said. Then it turns
Maybe
out
you want us to see what's not in
yeah.
there?
So it turns out if you actually read what he actually signed and asked Kash Patel to declassify at the FBI, we're not getting all of it, buddy. You won't believe this, but it's very targeted. We're getting certain things that he knows are going to be favorable to him, and then other things those are not on this list. Don't declassify that. So
Oh,
he keeps saying verbally declassify everything. But then what we're really doing is very targeted declassification. That if Kash Patel's in charge of it, like I say with everything else, this is baked in. What we're gonna get, we already know the answer to. Like this is gonna
yeah.
look good for Trump. There's no way around it. So
Huh.
yeah, so we'll see what he actually tries to get out.
Did
And
you
then
see there's a bunch of countries have put us on like the United States on like a travel warning
yeah,
advisory or whatever?
because we're not a democracy anymore, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't even have anything about that tonight, but you know that one University of Columbia kid that we basically disappeared off to Louisiana.
Hmm.
There's been several more this week, and there's videos of them. Like they're walking out of their apartments, and then it's always plain clothed, like cops, DHS or ICE agents, I guess. And they walk up to them and they immediately pull a badge on like a necklace out of their shirt and then have it hanging in front. But they're always wearing masks too, like COVID masks or like almost like a schema. What do you call that? A buff that they pull up over their nose. But they always have their face covered. They pull out their badge, and then it's like they pull the person into an unmarked car and right off down the road, and just like, okay,
Oh, so if somebody walks up to the masters, run,
yeah, 100%. Like I said,
take
I'll send you
off.
these videos. It's scary, but like there's been a couple more this week, and then Rubio said yesterday, he was like, yeah, he's like, no, I totally have the power to do this, and I plan on doing more. Like I will do it until there are no more left to do it to. So. One of them was just a girl who she's a grad student from Turkey, and she's like an op-ed writer in her school's newspaper, and she wrote a article that was kind of pointing out all the bad things Israel is doing right now. That was all she wrote an article.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that
So
that is
we're deporting people for talking bad about another country.
what you don't understand, Docs, is that this has everything to do with freedom of speech. Okay, so
Yeah.
you only have the freedom for the speech that I think is okay, and that I said this a couple times, but if they were talking crap about America, like I still would say this is a blatant violation of the First Amendment, but I would kind of understand, like to a degree, I would, oh, like you can't come into our country, then start talking bad about us. Like I would at least understand what their logic is. I wouldn't agree with it, but I would understand it. But like
Hmm.
we're kicking people out of our country for criticizing a different country, like that we shouldn't have anything to do. Like it's just if somebody was criticizing France, would we kick them out of America or England or Spain? No, but it's
Well,
Israel, and because it's
but it's not
Israel,
even just that. The rest of the world is talking shit about him too.
mhm.
Like
Well,
everybody's criticizing him, not just our students. Everybody across the entire world, besides the U.S. politicians, are criticizing what they're doing over there.
it really makes me wonder. So I'm coming around on one conspiracy theory, okay? Because the whole like, oh, Israel, they control our government, they control our politicians, they must have compromise, like the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, do they have videos of all of our politicians with underage girls? Like I always kind of said, they give a lot of like they do control some senators and congressmen because they give them a lot of money, but they don't really control us. Like that's kind of where I was. But the more I look at it now, I'm just like, oh shit, I think Israel really controls us. I don't. I'm
With our
starting to go.
politicians,
No, but I'm saying it's more than just money. Like I'm open to that right now. Like if somebody wants to
hmm,
try to convince me of that, like I'm open for business. Like let me hear what you have to say.
you
Like
think they just have op-eds on everybody and
it's got to be because I mean
videos and what they've done, and
I think they have both sides. I don't think it's like they have the Republicans or they have the Democrats. Like they've got a little bit of both. Like
they've got a little, yeah.
they've got
Everybody besides Bernie.
probably it's got to be because Bernie and AOC and the squad. I mean, it's about all they don't have. So, and actually, there are some Republican members of Congress, like the far right ones, that
Yeah.
are starting to get a lot more anti-Israel. So
Yeah, who was that one guy that from Nebraska who was talking? He said like they came to him and was like, "Hey, just can you write us a 12-page paper on why you think Israel's great?" And he was just like, "No, I'm not doing that."
I
And
did
they're like,
not
"Well,
see
here,
that.
just sign the one that so and so wrote." And he's like, "No, why would I do that?"
Yeah,
And
I did
he
not
he
see that at all.
it was a
Uh,
good interview. Yeah, yeah.
I'll bet I'll bet that was Don Bacon if I had a guess. Hold on, let
No,
me.
not Don Bacon. If you said his name, I would totally remember it. But yeah,
Okay,
he was being
was it
interviewed.
Dan Osborne?
No, I don't think so.
Hmm.
Um, let's see.
Yeah, I don't know who that would have been. Anyhow, yeah, we don't have to waste time on it.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad that somebody's not towing the line on that. Which again, like it's so weird because if you're gonna say anything bad about Israel, I feel like I have to always say like, hey, I have nothing against Jewish people at all. Like I don't know a whole lot of Jewish people, but I wish I did. The couple I've known in my life seem like nice people. There's nothing against Jewish people. The country of Israel and their leadership at the moment is not being cool about looking out for civilian casualties right now. That's my beef. And nothing against
Well,
Israel or nothing against the
not
Jews.
it's not just right now. It's been
Yeah,
for
yeah,
a long time.
yeah. When it comes
I
when it
feel like
comes to the
we
Palestinians,
keep
yeah,
going over this.
yeah. I don't think it's going to end anytime
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
So anyhow, in even less exciting news, FEMA officially today cut their contract with the American Bar Association. They provide pro bono work for disaster survivors. This is a follow up because when they did their continuing resolution, they zeroed out the funding for legal services for disaster victims. So whenever there's a hurricane or a fire or a flood or whatever, the insurance companies are always looking to screw you out of the money they owe you. Like that's their game is how do we find a
Yeah.
way to not have to pay this out? And the government helps assist people who just lost
Yeah.
everything and they have a deal with the what is it called? The American Bar Association, and it's to help to do basically pro bono work for people and get them the money they deserve from their insurance companies. The government officially now has nothing to do with that. Like you're on your own. If your insurance company is trying to screw you over, you need to come up with the money to sue them because we're not going to help you with that. Major win for property insurers. They can screw people out of their money pretty much at their leisure now. Um, I don't think it's going to matter because we cut FEMA too.
Okay.
So there's no FEMA anymore. So like right now, there's wildfires in North Carolina that I keep seeing on the news. They've been burning for a couple of days, and it's just apparently just devastation out there. And
Oh, I haven't heard anything about that.
yeah, that's been going on for a couple of days, and it's going to be interesting because as soon as this is over, people are going to start saying, "Where is the federal government?" Like, oh, Trump got rid of FEMA. Like, there is no FEMA. It's up to your state to help you now. Good luck. So
And that's what state he won too.
he did. So we'll see what happens with that. And then the last thing I'm going to close on tonight. So you know how we've talked about how, hey, if you kick out all the illegals, like in the couple times different states have done that, then you start getting like fruit going bad while still on the tree or on the vine because nobody's there to pick it, and then grocery prices go up. You know, we've talked about that a lot. So Florida's dealing
Yeah.
with that right now. Apparently, a lot of Florida's immigrant labor has left. Not just because of Trump. DeSantis made a whole big stink about how they're going to get all the illegals out of there, and he announced all the different steps they were going to do. So illegal immigrants in Florida started making their way to blue states, like just get out of there so you don't get deported. And now they have a worker shortage, not just in like the fruit fields and whatnot, but also in factories because it's an open secret that nobody talks about. But like most of our meat packing facilities and the slaughterhouses are all done by immigrants.
Mm.
Anyhow, so they have a labor shortage. Where do you think they're turning to fill their labor shortage?
Children.
Exactly. Good guess,
No
Docs.
way. Are you
So
serious?
so they have
Oh,
a they have a bill that looks like it's going to pass the Florida State House and head to the Senate here in any day now. But it's going to lift child labor laws to fill the jobs that are vacated by undocumented immigrants. The bill would allow 14-year-olds to work overnight shifts. Apparently, in Florida, 14-year-olds can already work, but it's limited on what hours they can work. But apparently, the overnight shifts at these slaughterhouses and meatpacking places and all that are where they're having trouble hiring people from. So you can put a 14-year-old to work in a job on overnight shifts, and it also it ends guaranteed meal breaks for 16 and 17-year-olds. Apparently, once you turn 18 in Florida, you don't have a guaranteed meal break anyway. But they were like, hey, if the kid's 16 or 17, if they work, I think it's if they work 7 hours or more, they have to get a meal break. And it ended that. There is no meal breaks anymore for 16 and 17-year-olds. So they
so
get treated.
child labor is back.
Yeah. And if you remember, Arkansas did this like in the last year where Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she even did like a big signing and had like 10 and 12-year-old kids behind her like wearing suits and ties. It was a really odd.
They all
None of
look
the
depressed.
none of these kids are gonna get office jobs right now. They're all gonna be put to work in very crappy jobs. So anyhow, so that appears to be the fix. And what's weird is
Well, what parents are gonna let their kids go work an overnight shift at the meat packing plant when they have to be at school at 7 in the morning?
so these kids are dropping out of school, I'm gonna guess. I'm just guessing.
So we're gonna drop our kids out of school so they can work the
Yeah.
meat pack.
The way that they're trying to sell it in Florida is that, hey, 30 years ago, an average family could live off a single income, and like that stopped, and now you need mom and dad both need to work, and now we're at a point to where even with two incomes, it's hard to make ends meet. So why not have a third household income? That's legit. The way they're trying to sell this to the people in Florida is, hey, think of how nice it would be to have a third, a fourth, or a fifth income. When you put your teenage children to work. Like you'll be able to have extra spending money now. that's that's the sales pitch, okay?
This is
So
fantastic. This is
yeah.
fantastic. Holy
What
shit.
what's funny is I think so Arkansas did it first, Florida's doing it, and I think that if the trend continues right now, I think that more red states are going to start doing that. Like all across the South, you're going to have like a workforce of 14-year-old kids. Which when we were young, I think we could work at 15, and there were certain circumstances where you could have a job when you were 14. I can't remember. It was like a hardship something. I think. I'm not positive on that.
Yeah, I
Were
worked
you-
at 14, but I didn't have a hardship. He just paid me under the table, I think.
Okay, so you were one of those
Yeah.
child workers.
But
So
I
you were,
was, yeah, I
yeah,
wanted to work. I was like, I want my own money.
and you were still going to school, right? And you were probably not working during school hours or overnight shifts.
Yeah, I was working like on Saturdays, like
Yeah.
after school, maybe for an hour or two after school, and then on Saturdays.
See, in my day, we didn't have to work overnight shifts, but these kids today, they're going to have to learn the value of a graveyard shift. So anyhow, and I I was trying to think of a positive. Like, well, I guess some kids, it's clear they're not going to college. It's clear that they're only going to work in a meatpacking plant their whole life. So maybe get them a jump start and work in the meatpacking plant. That's the only positive I can come up with. I'm trying so hard to think of a good reason for this, but
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, yeah, maybe they won't put them in the meat packing plants, but just picking fruit. I don't know. I think the reason we started with child labor laws was because children were getting hurt, injured on
it was.
jobs.
It's exactly right. Uh,
So why are we doing that? So the guy's name is Thomas Massey from
oh,
Kentucky.
you know what? I've been meaning to talk to you about Thomas Massey. You know the whole saying, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend."
Oh yeah,
I don't necessarily like that, but it's the reality of the situation. And
totally.
Thomas Massey and Rand Paul are both like they're like libertarian right. Like I don't agree with them on almost anything they say ever, but they have both been kind of like they're quick to say like, "Hey, I don't agree with what Trump and the Republicans are doing right here." So like, it's kind of weird because there's been a couple times like, just like I'm still mad about the fact that a couple things recently have had me reading Laura Loomer's tweets and going, "Yeah, she's right," and it's like, "Oh, I'm agreeing with Laura Loomer. Where are we at?" I feel the same way about Thomas Massey and Rand Paul to a smaller degree. He's kind of barely saying anything. Where Thomas Massey has been getting into Twitter beefs with Trump like hardcore. Trump
Oh.
even said at one point that he was going to primary him. He said, "Hey, I can't wait to primary him. I'm going to get him out of Congress." And Thomas Massey like shot back and was like, "Sir, you've been against me for the last three elections, and I've still won." And it's been interesting. But yeah,
Okay.
Thomas Massey is one of the few people like standing on principle right now, which I don't like. He didn't vote for the continuing resolution. Every Republican in the House voted for it except for him, and he said no.
Okay.
He said this doesn't cut it enough. I said I'm not doing any more CRs. We need to cut it in half. We should not pass a budget if it adds anything to the debt, which is not realistic. I'm just going to be out front with you. That's
Right.
not going to happen. But he's been saying that forever, and he's been running on that, and he's been telling his constituents that, and damn it,
Okay.
he means it. And Trump thought he could pressure him into voting for it, and Massey was just like, "No, like there's nothing you're gonna say
Good for him.
unless you show me a new budget that says we're not adding to the debt. I'm not signing it." So again, I don't agree with his reasoning, but just the fact that he's kind of starting shit with Trump makes me be like, "Yeah, Thomas Massey," and then it's like, "Oh shit, did I just say that? I did. I
Oh,
just
Thomas Massey, what?
exactly." So yeah, so.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, good on him. And that's what the whole enemy of my enemy is my friend thing. It's funny because like George W. Bush, hated by the left, hated for two endless wars and financial collapse of 2008. And then he never even really came out as against Trump. He just didn't he wasn't pro Trump and he kind of snickered and laughed at some things Trump did. And suddenly the left was like, "Oh, we love George W. Bush now." And it's like, what? All he's doing is not being pro Trump, and we love him for that. Mitt Romney in 2004 or 2012, we were making him, not even me. I didn't vote that election, but I would have voted for Mitt Romney over Obama. Okay. It would have been a mistake, but I would have. But at the
Okay.
time they were saying Mitt Romney's a racist and all these things. And then he's one of the few senators that stands up to Trump, and the left loves Mitt Romney. So there's
Yeah.
this weird thing where if you're a Republican, every Liz Cheney is as conservative as they come on every issue. She agrees with the right, but she's against Trump, and the left loves Liz Cheney. Like it's a
Left does
weird
not
thing.
love Cheney. The left still
Eh,
does not love Cheney. She can't hate Trump enough to be loved by the left.
okay, well they were definitely putting up with her for a while.
Well, yeah, and I think that was one of Kamala Harris's biggest problems was she brought out Liz Cheney as like and
Yeah.
like was like touting like Dick Cheney as like a hero of the people.
So I'm very torn on that whole conversation right there because I thought honestly that the move towards the middle, try to get as close to the center as you can and pick up as many swing voters as you can, and maybe even some soft Republicans. I thought that was the right move. Okay, it turned out not to be, but I thought it was the right move. Other people are saying, "Hey, you need to go further to the left. Like that's where the base is. That's where the enthusiasm is. Get a Bernie type figure in there." But then they come out with polls. Like just this week, they came out with a poll and said that 80% of self-described Democrats consider themselves to be centrist Democrats, where only 20% consider them to be further to the left. And it's like, well, if only 20% of our party is over there, if that's how I've always said this, but the far left and the far right is a very small group, but they're the loudest people in the world online. Like if you get on
No,
Twitter,
dude, all you have to do is be a populist, is actually be a populist.
yeah,
Trump talks like he's a populist, but he's not a populist.
okay, he
But
convinces
it,
people he is.
most people would want free healthcare for the country, free education
Yeah.
for the country, right? Medicaid, Medicare, like these are popular things. And like, go out and talk about that. Talk about boosting Medicaid and Social Security and like, and actually somebody talk about how Social Security with if we don't touch it, it could still survive for like 25 years without us even putting any money into it.
Yeah, it
Like
could survive indefinitely if they got rid of the cap on like once you make over like $150,000, like it caps it at how much you're paying into Social
it's
Security.
$400,000,
Okay,
something like that.
whatever it is, yeah. But get rid of that cap and it's fixed for life. Like that solves the problem. But that would mean the rich paying more in their taxes. So, but hey,
Mhm.
apparently Trump's on board with that now, if you believe the stories I
Do
saw
it.
today. I don't believe
Yeah, I
them,
mean,
but
all the left has to do is actually become a populist.
I
Like,
don't know.
party, legalize marijuana. Like, that's
I think that
get rid of student loans.
I
Like,
think legalizing marijuana, honestly, I think is a centrist view. Like, I don't think that's a far left thing. I think most Americans would agree. Like, there are some universal
I'm saying,
background checks, legalize weed, fix the healthcare one way or another, whether it's single payer or whatever. But come on, show me a plan that's going to really fix healthcare. Um,
yeah,
they- you do some stuff like that. And the other thing, though, would be inflation, helping people's pocketbooks. And
tax
that's
the
why
rich.
but that's why Trump won last time is because it seems like most of America believed that he was going to do the thing for the economy that's best. So
Hmm.
far, that's not working out for him. But he won on the messaging on that. But that's
Yeah,
it scares me because it's like I go back and forth on it. I'm like, well, like maybe they should try to go further to the left. Maybe that's the right play. But then you see a poll like I saw today where 80% describe themselves as centrist left, and it's like, okay, well, then do we go all the way left? I don't really know.
I think we just go populist,
Okay, well, you know what
complete populist.
you
Like,
know what
I
they
mean,
need to
and that's the
do?
way democracy should be, right?
What they need to do, and this goes back to the Hillary Bernie in 2016, but like give me three or four candidates. Give me a couple far left, give me a couple centered or some people in between, and then legit, let's see who wins the primary without any interference,
They're
without
never gonna do that though. They
yeah, they never
screwed Bernie big time,
I
right?
know, but that let's just I wish they would just do that. Just let's see. If the people pick the far left guy, then damn it, let him try. Like that's
Yep.
but
But
you say
they won't
what's
do
the
that.
worst? But you say what's the worst that could happen? Well, the worst that could happen is you start an 8-year run of JD Vance. That's pretty bad.
I don't think that's gonna happen. If you go populist and you actually pick, if I think if Bernie would have won, if Bernie would have beat Hillary out, we would just be getting out of a 4-year Bernie term.
So I'm gonna say in 2016, I don't think Bernie could have won. In 2020, I think Bernie could have won. But in
I
2016, the Bernie's message wasn't still really out there to where there are a bunch of people like me that were like, Bernie's too far left. In the past couple of years, I think Bernie has done a better job of getting his message out to where people know what he really wants to do. But
Yeah.
it's sad because it's happening now where it's like it's too late. You're too old. You're going to be too old by 2028. But in
But
2016, I don't think he could have beaten Trump.
if he would have won the Democratic nominee, he would have had those interviews. He would have had those conversations. He would come out with
Mhm.
plans. He would have had things in writing, like, and he would have been able, I think he would have been able to beat Trump.
You might be
I
right.
really,
We'll never
I
know,
think,
but
I think both sides had so, like, everybody's so sick of the system, and both sides were kind of like Bernie's a little bit more into the system, right? Or a lot more into the system than Trump was then,
mhm.
but like, but they were both kind of far
Well,
outside of the system in their ideas and their viewpoints.
and I think that's the only thing. I think you could have a centrist or a far left candidate on the Democrat side as long as they have one thing that they're talking about, and that they need to be an outsider. They can't be the one running to preserve the status quo. Like Kamala tried to run of, hey, what Joe Biden's been doing is working, and we just need to keep doing that. And
Yeah.
people, average people, were like, "No, I don't like the way things are going. I can't afford to do the fun things with my family that I want to, so I don't like the way things are going." So she ran a status quo, and Trump ran as the change candidate. Okay, now whoever runs next time, I don't care what the economy could be good. I don't care. They need to have somebody that is going to be the disruptor and the change candidate. I'm going to try something different. What they've been trying isn't working, and I'm here to give you a new path forward. Like that's
Yeah.
what if they have somebody come in who's been a senator for 12 years and they're part of the Washington establishment, like that's not the play.
Yeah. How did Obama win his second term?
He was an
We were
outside, or so
he
first
what?
term he was an outsider. Second
Right.
term he kind of squeaked that out. Like his approval rating going into the midterm, or I guess his second election, he wasn't really that popular. It's just that uh, Mitt Romney
He put the
being a
dog in
more
the car.
well, Mitt Romney being a Mormon hurt him a lot. Like they started pulling out all the polygamy stuff and all that, and it made you think, oh, what kind of crazy shit does this guy believe? Do we really want him to be a president? And then they also
Yeah.
did a great job of painting him as a racist, which like it turns out Utah is one of the more racist states in the union.
Hmm.
And actually, the Mormon Church didn't let black people in until like shockingly recently, like within the
Really?
last 30 or 40 years. Yeah, they didn't believe black people could be.
Whoa.
Yeah, so anyhow, that's how he won. Is the right put up a bad candidate? I would say. His
Okay.
second time, yeah. His first time, I was a McCain fan in 2008, so I very much wanted to see McCain win.
Mm.
I was a big time Republican at that point. And McCain. So what's interesting there though is McCain and Obama were both kind of running as the change agent at that point because McCain was a Republican, but he was a maverick Republican. He didn't follow the party line. He would vote with the left when when it was appropriate. So he was a bit of the outsider. Uh, Obama was the total outsider. Hope and change. Like that's a great campaign message. Hope and change. And honestly, when you like I still think Obama did pretty good. And in 2016, if I would have had the chance to vote for Hillary, Trump, or Obama, even though I didn't vote for Obama the previous two times, I would have voted for a third term of Obama, just given like who we were presented with.
Yeah,
Um, but when you really look back at it, though, like we didn't get a lot of change with Obama. Like it was a lot of talk with hope and change, and like simple stuff like Obama, like he kind of invented the modern like drone bombings that we have. Like that really picked up under Obama, and he was
totally.
quite all right with it. So,
Yeah, it's kind of messed up. He did do Obamacare was a good thing.
and Obamacare never got implemented like he wanted to implement it because Republicans kind of did everything they could to make it not work. So, and we're still dealing with that, but. I don't know. True
Yeah,
single
I mean
payer is the way to go.
he was on his way to making like Medicaid for all type of thing.
Yeah, and that was the goal was baby step it to Medicaid for all, but if anything, we're backtracking on that now. So I think there's a better chance that the what is it called, the American Health Care Act or whatever ACA. I think there's the Obamacare as we call it. I think there's a better chance that that just goes away completely than it ever gets better. Like just the way we're
I know.
headed right now.
It
So
is, yeah. Well, yeah, they're working on Medicaid and Medicare and
Social
Social
Security.
Security,
Yep.
and I feel like Obamacare is right up there, right up there on the top of their list. So,
Yeah. If you want good health care, you should get a better job and pay for it. That's kind of the mentality of the
yeah,
Republicans. So, and
just pay for it.
the left does this whole, health care is a right. And I'm like, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a right, but I would say if you're the richest country in the world, health care shouldn't be an issue for your people. That's where I lay on it.
I think we're the only like developed world that doesn't have some sort form of free healthcare for everybody.
Yeah, and I mean that's the key thing you just said there though is like it's never free. Like
It's taxed.
you're in it. You're still paying for it. It's just a matter of how you're paying for it.
Yeah,
But if you believe what Bernie says, if you go to a single payer method, then you have one payer negotiating with the healthcare companies. There's no middlemen. Like overall, the cost is a lot lower. We would save money that way. That's
yeah,
the argument that makes sense to me the way Bernie describes it. Like if it means overall the healthcare cost goes down by billions a year, then okay, I'm all ears. Like how do we do that? And Bernie seems to have a decent plan for that. Never
yeah,
going to happen, but seems to have a decent plan. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
So, anyhow, that's all I got for tonight, man. You got anything else?
I think that's it. That was
Awesome.
good.
All right. Have a good Friday night, buddy, and I will talk to you
Yeah.
soon.
All right, later, bro.
Later.
Sometimes you eat the bar, sometimes the bar eats you.